Welcome to economics, one of the most frequently tested areas on the GED Social Studies exam. This lesson focuses on essential economic concepts that appear regularly on the test, including market systems, supply and demand, economic indicators, and fiscal policy. Economics questions typically make up 15% of the social studies test, so mastering these concepts is crucial for your success. Let's begin with economic systems and market structures. Capitalism and free market economy. In a capitalist system like the United States, the economy is driven by private ownership and competition. Specifically, private individuals and businesses own the means of production. Competition drives innovation and efficiency. Prices are determined by supply and demand. Government regulation is limited but present. Key characteristics you'll likely see on the test include private property rights, freedom of choice for consumers and producers, profit motive drives business decisions, competition benefits consumers through lower prices and better quality. Mixed economy. However, in reality, most economies today are mixed economies, which means they blend free market principles with government intervention. Both public and private sectors play a role. Government steps in to prevent market failures. And social safety nets and public services are included to support citizens. Market competition types. Understanding the different types of market structures can help you recognize how businesses operate. Perfect competition. Many sellers, identical products, easy entry and exit. Monopoly. A single seller controls the entire market. Oligopoly. A few large firms dominate the market. Example, airlines, telecommunications. Monopolistic competition. Many sellers offer slightly different products, allowing for consumer choice. These systems and structures form the foundation of how the U.S. economy works and will likely appear in GED test questions.
To understand how prices are set in the economy, you need to grasp the basic forces of supply and demand. The law of supply. Supply refers to how much of a product producers are willing and able to sell at various prices. Law of supply. As prices go up, the quantity supplied goes up. Supply curve. Slopes upward from left to right. Factors that affect supply include production costs, wages, raw materials, technological advances, number of sellers in the market, government policies or regulations. The law of demand. Demand refers to how much of a product consumers are willing and able to purchase at various prices. Law of demand. As prices go up, the quantity demanded goes down. Demand curve slopes downward from left to right. Factors that affect demand include changes in income, consumer preferences, population changes, prices of substitute or complementary goods. Market equilibrium. This is the point where supply meets demand. Equilibrium price. The price at which quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. Market clearing. No surplus or shortage exists at this price. Shifts in curves. If something other than price changes, like technology or income, the entire supply or demand curve shifts, causing a new equilibrium. GED tip. Expect to interpret supply and demand graphs. Watch for shifts caused by outside factors versus movements along the curve caused by price changes only.
Understanding the health of an economy requires analyzing several key indicators. These indicators help explain whether an economy is growing, shrinking, or remaining stable. Let's explore them one by one. Gross domestic product, GDP. To begin with, GDP measures the total value of all goods and services produced within a country during 1 year. It serves as a broad indicator of a nation's economic activity. Real GDP. This is adjusted for inflation and shows actual economic growth over time. Nominal GDP. In contrast, this version is not adjusted for inflation and can be misleading if prices rise. GDP per capita. This divides GDP by the total population, providing insight into the average standard of living. GDP growth rate. Finally, this represents the percentage change in GDP from year to year and signals the pace of economic growth. Unemployment rate. Next, the unemployment rate indicates the percentage of people actively seeking work who cannot find jobs. This rate offers insight into the economy's ability to generate employment. There are different types of unemployment to understand. Frictional unemployment, temporary, as people transition between jobs. Structural unemployment occurs when workers' skills don't match available jobs. Cyclical unemployment, linked to economic downturns and decreases during periods of growth. It's important to note that full employment doesn't mean zero unemployment. Economists typically consider an unemployment rate of 4 to 5% to represent full employment, as it accounts for both frictional and structural unemployment. Inflation rate. Moving on, the inflation rate measures how quickly prices for goods and services rise over time. This impacts purchasing power and cost of living. Consumer Price Index. This index tracks the prices of a typical set of consumer goods to measure inflation. Causes of inflation may include an increase in the money supply, too much money chasing too few goods, rising production costs, e.g., wages, raw materials. Effects of inflation. It reduces the value of money, meaning people can buy less with the same income. This is especially harmful to those on fixed incomes. Business cycle phases. Finally, economies move through recurring periods of growth and decline, known as the business cycle. It includes 4 key phases. Expansion, a period of economic growth where GDP rises and unemployment falls. Peak, the high point of economic activity before a downturn begins. Contraction, or recession, economic activity declines, GDP falls, and unemployment rises. Trough, the lowest point of the cycle, after which recovery typically begins. GED focus. A recession is officially defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Expect GED questions that ask you to identify or interpret these phases using graphs or descriptions. Understanding how money works is key to understanding the broader economy. Functions of money. To begin with, money plays a crucial role in any economy by serving 3 primary functions. Medium of exchange. First and foremost, money allows people to trade goods and services without relying on barter systems. Unit of account. Secondly, it provides a standard way to measure and compare the value of different items. Store of value. Finally, money retains its value over time, allowing people to save and make future purchases. These functions make money a powerful tool for organizing and operating a modern economy. The Federal Reserve System. Next, let's look at the institution that manages the U.S. money system, the Federal Reserve, or the Fed. Established in 1913, the Fed is the central bank of the United States. Its key responsibilities include controlling the nation's money supply and interest rates, regulating banks and financial institutions to ensure stability, processing payments between banks, acting as the government's bank for financial operations. Understanding how the Fed works helps explain how the economy responds to growth, inflation, and recessions. Federal Reserve tools. To manage the economy, the Fed uses several powerful tools, including reserve requirements. This is the amount of money banks are required to keep in reserve and not lend out. By raising or lowering this, the Fed influences how much money banks can loan. Discount rate. This is the interest rate the Fed charges banks for short-term loans. A lower rate encourages borrowing, a higher rate discourages it. Open market operations. The Fed buys or sells government bonds to increase or decrease the money supply in the economy. Federal funds rate. This is the target interest rate for lending between banks, which influences many other interest rates in the economy. Each tool plays a strategic role in shaping overall economic conditions. Monetary policy goals. With these tools, the Fed carries out monetary policy, which has two main types. Expansionary policy, easy money. When the economy is slow or in a recession, the Fed may lower interest rates and increase the money supply to encourage borrowing, spending, and investment. Contractionary policy, tight money. On the other hand, when inflation is too high, the Fed may raise interest rates and reduce the money supply to slow down spending and stabilize prices. In Part 2, we'll explore fiscal policy and the government's economic role to better understand how the government influences the economy through spending and taxation.